The observation station floated silently in the darkness beyond Neptune. It had been there for 3,000 years, hidden from every telescope and every satellite that humans had ever built. The station was home to the Velen, a species of tall, silver-skinned beings with large dark eyes that could see in almost complete darkness. They had watched Earth since before humans had learned to write. Elder Orn stood before the main viewing screen, his thin fingers clasped behind his back. On the screen, images of Earth played in a continuous loop. Cities rose and fell. Empires crumbled. Wars erupted across continents. Nuclear explosions bloomed like terrible flowers. Oren had seen it all, recorded it all, and reported it all to the Galactic Council. The Council was an assembly of over 400 intelligent species from across the galaxy. They had achieved peace among themselves thousands of years ago. They traded, they shared knowledge, they helped each other grow. But they had one rule that was never broken. It was called the Silence Protocol, and it existed because of humanity. Humans were never to know about the galaxy. They were never to be contacted. They were to be watched, studied, and avoided at all costs. Orin remembered the day the Council had made this decision. He had been young then, barely 200 years old. The Council had reviewed the evidence. They had seen humans burn their own cities. They had seen humans enslave each other based on the color of their skin. They had seen humans build weapons that could end all life on their planet. The verdict was unanimous. Humanity was too dangerous, too violent, too unpredictable. If they ever learned about the wider galaxy, they would surely try to conquer it. So the Velen were assigned to watch. They were the galaxy's silent guardians, making sure humans never discovered the truth. Behind Oren, a door slid open. A younger Velen entered the observation room. Her name was Lyra, and she was barely 90 years old. In Velen terms, she was still practically a child. But she was also the most talented scientist on the station, and she had been watching humans for longer than most. "Elder Oren," she said softly, "may I speak with you?" Oren did not turn from the screen. "You may." Lyra walked closer, her silver feet making no sound on the metal floor. "I had been reviewing the observation logs from the past century. There is something I think you should see." Oren finally turned. His large eyes narrowed slightly. "I have seen everything there is to see about humans, Lyra. I have watched them for 3,000 years. What could you possibly show me that I have not already witnessed?" Lyra hesitated. She knew she was about to challenge the Elder, and that was not something young Velen did lightly. But she had to try. "You have shown the Council their wars," she said. "You have shown them their weapons and their cruelty. But you have not shown them everything." She lifted a small device and projected images into the air between them. The first image showed a human soldier carrying a wounded enemy on his back, walking miles through a desert to find medical help. The second showed thousands of humans forming a chain with their own bodies to rescue strangers from a flood. The third showed doctors working without sleep for days to save children they had never met. "They do this too," Lyra said quietly. "When disaster strikes, they help each other. When someone is in danger, they run toward the threat, not away from it. They call it bravery. They call it compassion. They build hospitals and schools. They create art and music that makes them weep with joy. They dream of the stars and wonder if they are alone." Oren watched the images in silence. His expression did not change. "These are exceptions," he said finally. "Random acts in a sea of violence. Are they?" Lyra pressed. "I have studied their history more carefully than anyone else on this station. Yes, they have wars. Yes, they have committed terrible acts. But they also have something no other species in the Council possesses. And what is that? The ability to change." Lyra stepped closer. "Other species evolve slowly over millions of years. Humans transformed themselves within generations. They ended slavery. They gave rights to all their people. They stopped using their most terrible weapons. They are not perfect, Elder, but they are always trying to be better. Oren was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned back to the viewing screen. The Council has made its decision, he said. The Silence Protocol has been in effect for 3,000 years. It will remain in effect. Humans are too dangerous to be trusted with the knowledge of the galaxy. This discussion is over. Lyra lowered her head. She knew she could not argue further. But deep in her heart, she believed she was right. Humans were not just the monsters the Council feared. They were something more. Something complex and beautiful and terrifying all at once. She left the observation room without another word. In the weeks that followed, reports came in that human ships were venturing farther from their home system. They were exploring, searching, reaching for the stars. The Velen tightened their cloaking fields and held their breath. They had stayed hidden for 3,000 years. They believed they could stay hidden forever. They were wrong. Captain Taiho Kim stood on the bridge of the Horizon Dawn and looked out at the endless darkness of space. His ship was far from Earth, farther than any human vessel had traveled before. They were mapping the outer reaches of the solar system, charting asteroids and measuring radiation. It was routine work, but Taiho loved it. Every day brought new discoveries. Every day brought humanity one step closer to the stars. Lieutenant Yuna Park sat at the communications station, her eyes fixed on her screens. She was young but brilliant, able to pick out signals that other officers missed. Today, something strange kept appearing on her instruments. "Captain," she said, "I am picking up an unusual energy signature." Taiho walked over to her station. "What kind of signature?" "I am not sure." Yuna frowned at her screens. "It appears and then vanishes. Almost like something is hiding." "Could be a sensor malfunction," said Engineer Jihoseo from across the bridge. "Maybe," Yuna replied. "But I have seen it 3 times now. Always in the same region of space." Taiho studied the readings. Something about them made his instincts stir. After 20 years in space, he had learned to trust his gut. "Keep monitoring it," he ordered. "Let me know if anything changes." Thousands of kilometers away, aboard the Velen observation station, everything changed in an instant. It started with a small warning light on Elder Arn's console. Then another. Then a dozen more. Within seconds, alarms were screaming throughout the station. Velen crew members rushed to their posts, their silver faces tight with fear. "What is happening?" Oren demanded. A young engineer checked his instruments with trembling hands. "The main reactor, Elder. There is a cascade failure. I do not know what caused it, but the core is becoming unstable." Oren felt his blood run cold. The reactor powered everything on the station. Life support, the cloaking field, communications, everything. "Can you fix it?" "I am trying," the engineer said. "But the damage is spreading faster than I can contain it." More alarms joined the chorus. The lights flickered. Somewhere deep in the station, metal groaned under stress. Oren realized with terrible clarity that they might not survive this. "Begin evacuation procedures," he ordered. "Get everyone to the emergency shuttle." But when his crew reached the shuttle bay, they found only more disaster. The shuttle had been damaged in the initial explosion. Its hull was cracked. Its engines were dead. It would not fly. They were trapped. Lyra rushed to Oren's side. "The long-range communication array is destroyed," she reported. "We cannot contact the Council. We cannot call for help from our own people." Oren closed his eyes. 3,000 years of successful observation, and it would end like this. Frozen and forgotten in the darkness of human space. "How long do we have?" he asked quietly. 4 hours, the engineer answered. Maybe less. When the reactor fails completely, life support will shut down. We will freeze to death. The station fell silent except for the wailing alarms. Vel and crew members looked at each other with despair in their large, dark eyes. They had families back home. They had lives waiting for them. Now they had nothing but a slow death in the cold. Lyra stood apart from the others, her mind racing. There had to be something they could do, some way to call for help. She ran through every system on the station, every piece of equipment that might still work. And then she remembered. The emergency beacon. It was an old system, almost never used. Its purpose was simple. If a Velen ship or station was in mortal danger and could not reach council frequencies, it could broadcast a universal distress signal, a cry for help that any intelligent species could understand. Any intelligent species, including humans. Lyra's heart pounded. The beacon was still functional. She had checked it just last month. But if she activated it, the humans would hear. They would come. And everything the council had worked to prevent for 3,000 years would be undone. She walked slowly toward the beacon controls. Her hand hovered over the activation switch. Lyra, Arin's voice cut through the chaos. What are you doing? I'm saving us, she said without turning around. No. Arin moved toward her, his old legs struggling to carry him quickly. You cannot. The humans will come. They will find us. Do you understand what that means? I understand that if I do nothing, we all die. Then we die. Orin grabbed her arm. We die with honor, keeping the secret we swore to protect. That is our duty. Lyra finally turned to face him. Tears shimmered in her large eyes. I have watched humans for decades, Elder. I have seen them at their worst. But I have also seen them at their best. When someone cries for help, they answer. They always answer. You are gambling our lives on the kindness of monsters. I am gambling our lives on the truth. Lyra pulled her arm free. I believe in them. I believe they will help us. Before Orin could stop her, she pressed the switch. A pulse of energy shot out from the station, rippling through space at the speed of light. It carried a simple message that needed no translation. Help. We are dying. Please help. Orin stared at her with something between horror and sorrow. You have doomed us all, he whispered. Or I have saved us, Lyra replied. We will find out soon enough. The beacon pulsed on and on into the darkness, searching for anyone who might hear, searching for humanity. The signal hit the horizon dawn like a thunderbolt. Every screen on the bridge lit up with the same pattern. Every speaker crackled with the same strange sound. Lieutenant Una Park stared at her instruments with wide eyes, unable to believe what she was seeing. Captain, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. You need to see this. Taiho crossed the bridge in 3 quick strides. What have you got? A signal. An artificial signal. Una's hands were shaking as she worked her controls. It is not random. It is structured. It is clearly made by an intelligent source. And it is clearly a distress call. The bridge fell completely silent. Every crew member stopped what they were doing and turned to look at the screen. For centuries, humanity had wondered if they were alone in the universe. They had searched the stars for any sign of other life. They had sent messages into the void, hoping someone would answer. Now someone was answering, and they were crying for help. Dr. Minho Beek, the ship's xenobiologist, rushed to Yuna's side. He spent his entire career preparing for this moment, even though he never truly believed it would come. Can you locate the source? He asked. Already done. Una pointed to a region of space on the navigation display. It is coming from there. Approximately 3 hours away at maximum speed. 3 hours, Taiho repeated. He turned to look at his crew. Their faces showed a mixture of fear, excitement, and disbelief. He understood exactly how they felt because he felt the same way. Sergeant Hana Choi, the head of the security team, stepped forward. "Captain, we need to be careful. We have no idea what we are dealing with. This could be a trap. Something designed to lure ships in. Or it could be someone who needs our help," Dr. Minho countered. "We have protocols for this situation," Hana continued. "We should contact Earth Command and wait for instructions. They need to know what is happening." Taiho nodded slowly. She was right. Protocol demanded that he report to Earth and await orders. That was the safe thing to do. The smart thing to do. But the smart thing would take days. Messages to Earth traveled fast, but not instantly. By the time he received permission to investigate, whoever was sending that signal might be dead. "Dr. Minho," he said quietly, "can you analyze the signal further? What can you tell me about whoever is sending it?" Minho studied his instruments for a long moment. "The signal is degrading, Captain. Whoever is sending it, their power source is failing. I am also detecting what appear to be life signs in the same location. Multiple beings. Their vital readings are weakening. How long do they have? At this rate? Perhaps 4 hours. Maybe less." Taiho closed his eyes. He thought about his training. He thought about all the rules he had sworn to follow. Then he thought about what it meant to be human. About all the times in history when someone had reached out for help and another person had answered. Not because it was safe. Not because it was smart. But because it was right. He opened his eyes. "Set a course for the signal source. Maximum speed." Hannah stepped closer to him. "Captain, with respect, we do not know what we are flying into." "No, we do not," Taiho agreed. "But we know that someone out there is dying. And we know that they called for help." He looked at each member of his crew in turn. "I became a captain because I wanted to explore the stars. But I became a human being because of something more important. When someone cries for help, we answer. That is who we are. That is who we have always been." No one argued further. The Horizon Dawn turned and accelerated toward the unknown. Engineer Jiho Co worked frantically in the cargo bay, preparing emergency supplies. Medical equipment, repair tools, oxygen tanks. He did not know what they would find, but he was determined to be ready for anything. Yuna kept her eyes locked on the signal. As they drew closer, she noticed something strange. "Captain, I am detecting another reading. Some kind of energy field surrounding the signal source. It is fluctuating badly. What kind of field? I am not certain. But if I had to guess, I would say it is a cloaking device. And it is failing." A cloaking device. Whoever was out there had been hiding. They had been deliberately staying unseen. But now, in their moment of greatest need, they had chosen to reveal themselves. The final hour of the journey passed in tense silence. Then, at last, the Horizon Dawn dropped out of high-speed travel, and the crew got their first look at the source of the signal. It was a station, massive and elegant, with sweeping curves and strange symbols on its hull. Lights flickered along its surface, some bright, some dying. Smoke or gas vented from several sections. It was clearly in serious trouble, and standing at its only functional viewport, visible through the transparent material, were figures. Tall, slender, silver-skinned, definitely not human. "My God," Dr. Minho breathed. "They are real. They are actually real." Taiho felt his heart pounding in his chest. This was it. First contact. The moment humanity had dreamed about for generations. He took a deep breath and turned to Yuna. "Open a channel." Yuna nodded and activated the communication system. "This is Captain Kim Taiho of the human vessel Horizon Dawn," he said. his voice steady despite his racing pulse. "We received your distress signal. We are here to help." The human's voice echoed through the dying station. Every Velen heard it. Every Velen felt their blood run cold with fear. They had come. The humans had actually come. Elder Oren stood frozen near the main viewport, staring at the alien vessel that had appeared out of the darkness. It was smaller than the station, but looked powerful and fast. Strange symbols marked its hull. The word Horizon Dawn was painted on its side. "They are here," he whispered. "The monsters are here." Lyra stood beside him, but she did not share his terror. She felt something else entirely: hope. "Elder," she said softly, "they said they are here to help." "Lies," Oren hissed. "They will board us. They will study us. They will take our technology and use it to conquer the galaxy. That is what humans do." Around them, Velen crew members huddled together in small groups. Some wept silently. Others prayed to old gods. The alarms still wailed. The lights still flickered. The reactor was still failing. They had perhaps 2 hours left before everything shut down forever. The human captain's voice came, again through the communication system. "This is Captain Kim Tae-ho. We can see your station is damaged. We have medical supplies and engineers ready to assist. Please respond." Lyra moved toward the communication panel. Oren grabbed her arm with surprising strength. "Do not answer them," he ordered. "Perhaps they will leave if we stay silent." "They will not leave," Lyra said. "I know them, Elder. I have watched them my whole life. They do not abandon people who need help." She gently pulled free from his grip. "And right now, we need help." She activated the communication system. Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke. "Human vessel, this is the Velen observation station. Our reactor is failing. Our life support is dying. We have 63 crew members on board. We cannot save ourselves." There was a brief pause. Then the captain spoke again. "Understood. We are preparing a boarding party now. Can you open your airlock?" Lyra looked at Oren. The old elder seemed to have aged 100 years in the past few minutes. His silver skin had turned pale. His dark eyes were filled with something between fear and resignation. "Open it," he said finally. "We aren't dead either way. At least this way, there's a chance." The Horizon Dawn maneuvered carefully alongside the station. A docking tube extended between them. Moments later, the airlock hissed open, and the first humans stepped aboard. Captain Tae-ho led the way, followed by Dr. Minho, Sergeant Hana, Engineer Ji-ho, and a team of crew members carrying supplies. They wore emergency suits because the station's atmosphere was not safe for human lungs. The temperature inside was far below freezing, cold enough to kill an unprotected human in minutes. None of this stopped them. Tae-ho looked around at the alien station with wonder in his eyes. Strange technology lined the walls. Symbols he could not read decorated every surface. And standing before him were beings from another world. They were beautiful in their strangeness. Tall and elegant, with silver skin that seemed to shimmer even in the dying light. One of them stepped forward. She was younger than the others, with large dark eyes that glistened with tears. "I am Lyra," she said. "I am the one who sent the signal. Thank you for coming." Tae-ho nodded. "I am Captain Kim Tae-ho. How can we help?" There was no time for long introductions. No time for the historic weight of the moment. People were dying, and nothing else mattered. Dr. Minho immediately began moving among the wounded Velen. Their biology was completely unknown to him, but he adapted quickly. He used his instruments to understand their vital signs. He applied human medical techniques that translated surprisingly well to alien physiology. Engineer Ji-ho ran toward the reactor core, guided by Velen engineers who were too stunned to question him. The damage was severe, but Jiho had spent his career solving impossible problems. He worked with calm efficiency, rerouting power, sealing breaches, stabilizing systems. Sergeant Hana and her team began evacuating the most vulnerable, Velen to the Horizon Dawn. They carried those who could not walk. They comforted those who were too afraid to move. Hannah herself lifted a small Velen child in her arms and spoke softly to him, even though neither understood the other's language. Elder Oren watched all of this in disbelief. He had expected violence. He had expected cruelty. He had expected everything the Council had warned about. Instead, he saw humans freezing in their suits but refusing to leave. He saw them pushing themselves beyond their limits to save strangers they had never met. He saw them treating Velen lives as if they were just as precious as human lives. Captain, Taiho approached the old elder and knelt beside him. Oren realized suddenly that he himself was injured. His leg was broken. He had not even noticed the pain until now. "Let me help you," Taiho said. Oren stared at him. "Why are you doing this? Your kind was supposed to destroy us." Taiho looked confused. "Destroy you? You called for help." "Yes, but we are not your people. We are alien to you. Strange, unknown." The human captain smiled gently. "Everyone is a stranger until you meet them, and no one who needs help is truly alien." He carefully lifted Oren and began carrying him toward the ship dot and the reactor room. Jiho shouted in triumph. The system stabilized with 3 minutes to spare. The cascade failure reversed. The reactor hummed back to life. The station would survive. The Velen would survive. Lyra stood in the middle of the chaos, watching humans and Velen work side by side. She had believed in them. She had risked everything on her faith in human compassion, and she had been right. The great chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so crowded. Representatives from over 400 species filled the enormous hall, their voices creating a constant murmur of sound. They had gathered to discuss something unprecedented, something that had changed everything they believed about the universe. Humans had made first contact, and they had come as saviors. Consul Dren, a tall being with deep blue skin and 4 arms, stood at the center of the chamber and called for silence. The murmurings slowly faded until the hall was quiet enough to hear a whisper. "For 3,000 years, Dren began, we have followed the silence protocol. We believed humanity was too dangerous to be trusted, too violent, too aggressive, too unpredictable." He paused and looked around the chamber. "Recent events have forced us to reconsider this belief." A door opened at the far end of the hall. Every eye turned to watch as Elder Oren walked slowly toward the speaking platform. He moved with a slight limp, a reminder of his injuries. But his posture was straight, and his dark eyes were clear. "Elder Oren of the Velen Observation Station," Dren announced. "You have requested to address the council. You may speak." Oren reached the platform and looked out at the sea of faces. Species of every shape and color watched him with curiosity and concern. He took a deep breath. "I spent 3,000 years believing humans were monsters," he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the entire chamber. "I watched them wage war. I watched them harm each other. I watched them build weapons capable of destroying their own world. And I believed the council was right to fear them." He paused, remembering the chaos of that terrible day on the station. The alarms, the failing reactor, the cold creeping in as life support failed. When our station was dying, when we had no way to save ourselves, a young scientist named Lyra did something I ordered her not to do. She sent a distress signal that humans could hear. I told her she was dooming us all. I told her the humans would come and destroy us. The chamber was completely silent now. Not a single being moved. "The humans did come," Oren continued. "They came faster than I thought possible. They boarded our station, even though our atmosphere was poison to them. They worked in freezing conditions that could have killed them. They treated our wounded. They repaired our reactor. They saved our lives. Aaron's voice cracked slightly. When I asked their captain why he was helping us, he looked at me like he could not understand the question. He said we called for help. That was enough for him. That was all the reason he needed. From the side of the chamber, Lyra stepped forward. She carried a small device that projected images into the air above the council. Images she had collected over decades of observation. The council has seen humanity's worst moments, she said. You have seen their wars and their crimes and their cruelty, but you have not seen the full picture. The images showed humans rushing into burning buildings to save strangers. Doctors working without rest to heal the sick. Soldiers sharing their food with enemy children. Ordinary people standing up against injustice, even when it cost them everything. Humans are not perfect, Lyra said. They have done terrible things, but they have also done magnificent things. And they have something that makes them different from any species we have encountered. What is that? Consul Dren asked. Hope, Lyra answered. They hope. They dream. They believe that tomorrow can be better than today. And when someone is in trouble, they help. Not because there is profit in it. Not because there is an advantage to be gained. But because it is the right thing to do. A murmur swept through the chamber. Species that had feared humanity for millennia were forced to confront a new possibility. Perhaps they had been wrong. The doors at the back of the chamber opened again. This time, a group of humans entered. Captain Taiho walked at the front, followed by Yuna, Minho, Hana, and Jiho. They were the first humans to ever set foot in the Galactic Council. Every eye watched them as they approached the speaking platform. Taiho looked out at the assembly. He saw beings that looked like nothing he had ever imagined. Creatures of light and shadow, of fur and scale, of forms beyond human understanding. He felt very small in that moment. Very alone. But he also felt proud. I am Captain Kim Taiho of the human vessel Horizon Dawn, he said. I do not speak for all of humanity. No one person can. But I can tell you who we try to be. He took a breath. We've made terrible mistakes. We have hurt each other in ways that shame us. But we have spent our entire existence trying to be better. Looking at the stars. Wondering if we were alone. He looked at Elder Orin, then at Lyra, then back at the council. We are glad we are not alone. The council debated for hours after that. Some argued that humans were still too dangerous. Others believed they deserved a chance. In the end, the vote was close. But the silence protocol was ended. Humanity would be welcomed into the galactic community, not as conquerors or threats, as equals, as friends. The Horizon Dawn returned to Earth carrying the greatest news in human history. As the ship approached home, Yuna looked out at the stars and smiled. They tried so hard to stay hidden from us, she said softly. Taiho nodded. One distress call changed everything. Behind them, the galaxy waited. And for the first time in 3,000 years, it waited with hope instead of fear. The end.